Hi. First of all, thank you to IYAP and Thiru for asking me to come on board. If you have any questions after this, please leave them on Facebook or YouTube, and I'll follow it up post. Today, I just wanted to talk about what I call a gift in adversity. Um, Obviously, it's not a new concept, failing upwards, that you grow resilient through developing resistance by facing adversity is not a new concept. Like any muscle, if you work out, you know that you have to keep pushing until you get stronger, and that you can then add more weight, right? But that being said, there's no precedent for what we're going through right now. The entire world is at a standstill, and it's the first time in my life that I've experienced anything of this sort, of this nature, in such a global scale. So the only thing that I can look into is experiences from my life, from when I faced tough situations, to help me get through this. Because there's nothing else really out there. There's no blueprint for how do we get through what we are facing right now. And these lessons from my past has taught me that within adversity, that the gift is opportunity. And I want to tell you a little bit about my life and things I picked up along the way, and how this gift of opportunity has allowed me to grow resilient and grow stronger. Um, so I think, like most of y'all, I was academically well-to-do. I was doing well in school. At 17, I went into university at a prestigious university. I got the opportunity to go abroad, and I was studying law. But then within like the first 7 8 months, I started showing the first signs of an autoimmune disorder. I mean, now they've diagnosed me with lupus, but at that point I didn't know what was happening. It was very difficult. I found myself passing out on top of my exam papers because the medication wasn't right. So this led then to depression, it led to anxiety, and all of a sudden I found myself, from somebody who was used to winning, at least academically, suddenly not having an identity, not winning, not feeling like I was in control. And along with this, I was in England. EU laws changed. Even after my health situation, I managed to get a job, and I was working there for about 7 months when the EU laws came into effect, which said that if you're not a British citizen, if you're not from the UK or you're not from the EU, then it was going to be tougher for you to get your visa renewed. That meant that I had to come back to Sri Lanka until the process they go through the process of applying for my visa to get renewed. So this wasn't a great situation. So first of all, I am battling with a mental health issue at that point. I'm battling with a physical issue, and on top of this, there are laws being changed, and all my plans are suddenly changing, or it wasn't what I thought my life was going to be. However, this gave me time to pause because I was back in Sri Lanka and I wasn't working, and I had like 3 months. And the opportunity there was the fact that I managed to reflect. And upon reflection, I realized that I needed help, that I couldn't carry on like that. I needed to sort out my health issues physically, I need to sort out my health issues mentally. And this opportunity was really valuable for me at that point to get a grasp of my situation. This pause really helped me. And along with it, as I was trying to address what the root causes of my depression were, or where the anxiety was coming from, or how to get around the health issues, I wasn't getting out of bed. I spent quite a few months just waking up, eating, going to the doctor, getting my tests done, coming back, and just being on my bed. And at that point, I was 24, no, 23, and it really wasn't what I thought my life was going to be. But in that moment again arose an opportunity for me, because what got me out of bed was volunteering. I think that's something that maybe y'all can also relate to. Sri Lanka, anyway, we are. It's ingrained in us to be socially conscious. I think to a certain extent, to be giving, to be doing social work. It's pretty much ingrained in our culture, and it's cultivated within our schools. So maybe like y'all, I went through Interact and ISAC. So I've been part of these organizations, and I knew that it was something that motivated me, that got me out of bed. And within it, the opportunity was that I got to see where my true self lied. That at the core of it, service or service to others or making a change was something that was strong enough to make sure I got out of bed even amongst major depression. So fast track now to another 6 months later, I had set up a social enterprise, and I'm working. And as any new business, I was bleeding money, and there were infrastructure issues, and we were learning on the go. No money, so another obstacle. I remember borrowing money from my friends, from my parents, to taxing out any kind of loan I could get just to keep this business running, because I was like, this is what I'm going to do now. Whilst this was happening, I volunteered for a fashion show, and there I met Timo, who's a very well-to-do and premier model of Sri Lanka, who was a great human being as well. And he told me, "Hey, why don't you model? You seem to have the ability." And at that point, it was true. I had modeled before, just as a hobby. It wasn't something serious for me at that point. It wasn't. It was just a pastime. It was something I enjoyed, but it wasn't a career, or it wasn't an income source for me. And when he said, you if I train you, you might be good enough to get some cash on the side for your business. I was like, okay. But upon reflection, the thing is that adversity in terms of not having money, not being able to run my business, forced me to explore ideas that I hadn't considered before, forced me to take the chance and be like, okay, maybe this is something I can do. And so now modeling brings me money, good thing, and I'm able to feed it into my business. But what happens is that I'm already in a male dominated industry where I was working with arts and craftsmen from Sri Lanka, rural and traditional arts and craftsmen. But as great as the craft is, there are issues that you obviously already know about, that being a woman and working in such a field is not easy when you're young and a female, and when you're supposed to be the boss of men who may have gendered expectations, and they're about twice or three times as old as you. It becomes difficult. And when my modeling pictures started getting published on the papers, things became increasingly unsafe as well, because I started getting calls in the middle of the night. At that point, it was Viber from unknown numbers. I got nude pictures. I was being solicited. My pictures were being passed around. I was being called names, all because I was trying to do a business, and at the same time, I was a model. And again, as much as it broke my heart, the opportunity in that was that it motivated me. It made me see something else again that I didn't see before. Because I was like, so why couldn't I be a model, or somebody who was perceived to be aesthetically attractive, in that sense, be also be taken seriously? And this really, I think, to a point, it angered me, and it drove me forward to the point that I was like, okay, now modeling is not going to be a pastime. This is going to be something I'm going to be doing, because if somebody tells me no, I'm going to say no. Yes, I can be a model, and you will listen to me. I don't know if I was very successful in that at that point, but it really gave me that opportunity to drive forward. And then, so I'm modeling now. And again, next obstacle. I'm starting to get rejected from casting calls, or I'm getting dropped from things that I might have been booked for, simply not simply, it's a complicated issue, but it centers around beauty ideas. And suddenly my skin color is not right. I am not pretty in that sense, or I don't fit a particular beauty idea, right? And again, as this broke my heart, to be honest. Rejection isn't easy. Being told that you don't look right, you are not beautiful, you're not attractive, they're not easy things to hear. At the same time, the opportunity was that it now made me passionate, because now first I was motivated saying I'm going to model. Now I'm passionate about it. Now I'm like gung ho saying, you know what? If you're not going to give me an opportunity, if you're not going to give me that campaign, I'm going to create a narrative for myself. I started collaborating with whoever, again, like within artistic limitations, but whoever I thought had a good idea, I started collaborating with them. We started exploring anybody who would give me an opportunity to be in media. I was like, I'll take it. And one of those things was acting. I never wanted to, in the sense, I never dreamed that I'll be an actor or that I'll aspire to be an actor. But when I was given the opportunity and when I was contacted, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to explore this narrative. And again, it forced me to put myself out there, because I was so passionate by that adversity or by being told that I'm not good enough, to be like, you know what? I will try this out, even if it's acting, right? And now time is moving forward, industry is developing, which means there's less work as a model. That's not a great thing in for my end, for as far as my pocket goes, because suddenly I'm just like, oh, I don't have an income stream, because now I put all my time into developing this aspect. So again, the opportunity was that I could laterally now start expanding. I was like, okay, what else can I do with the skills I have, with the connections I have? What gap can I fill in this market? So this led to Event Solutions, which originally started with providing ushers for events, to providing now brand ambassadors for events, where we take young girls or beautiful girls who may have just been chosen previously just to be beautiful. Now they're out there because they're intelligent, they're able to represent your brand. So we're slowly changing the narrative of how a woman is seen within that male gaze, right? That led to then media solutions, where I work with models, I represent models. This led me to get into management. So I managed artists. Then to that, now my newest consulting job centers around PR management and digital presence. Again, these are not things I learned. These are things that I'm learning on the go, but it's because of my situation that it's forcing me to learn new skills, like including like learning how to get behind the camera, for example. It's a new skill. I never imagined that I wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to be telling stories as a director, maybe. But I'm learning all of it, right? Um, all of this being said, in order to see a gift, I think we have to cultivate gratitude. And in order to cultivate gratitude, to be grateful for all of these things that have been presented to you, you have to have a healthy mindset. Going back to the point on resilience earlier, we know that in order to be resilient, you cannot break. You have to push yourself to the point of breaking, perhaps, but you have to be able to come back and fight another day, right? And how you're going to do that? In order to do this, the absolute key is that you don't break. And coming to our current situation, what we are going through, as much as I want to look to my past, we have to acknowledge that this is unprecedented. It's the first time in my life that the whole world is going through something, right? And it is baffling. I understand that, you know, your concerns. I'm scared. I'm genuinely terrified as to what the future may look like for us. But at the same time, for me, the silver lining is that we are not alone. You and I, for a change, I think might be experiencing something at the same time. However, that being said, our experiences will still possibly be different. For example, if you're privileged, if you're rich, a rich person is not going to feel this situation the same way as somebody who's not so financially well off, right? Somebody who hasn't had the opportunity to be grateful or hasn't had the opportunity to develop that resilience is not going to be feeling this the same way. And speaking of that, social isolation or taking a cut in your income, losing your job, these are all circumstances that can lead to depression. And so, for me to wrap it up, I want to tell you, like, don't, as in obviously use this time to develop on yourself, but don't just focus on that, because look at somebody else might be needing your help, right? So look at ways that you can help others, even if it's making a phone call to a friend asking how they're doing. And knowing the kind of work that IYAP does, I know that you all must be involved in a lot of social work. So keep all of that up, and if there are any questions, let me know. um, Try and cultivate I think the key is to try and cultivate that healthy mindset, cultivate a healthy body as far as feasible. Make sure you're all right, and try and see the gift. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for joining me.